conversation about cancer awareness. And joining me tonight is a person who is a health rights advocate and educator. She's also an author who has written about a couple of cancers and other diseases that disturb us from time to time as the human race. Now, 2 weeks ago, the 4th of February, the world marked World Cancer Day, as is the custom every year, to make sure we encourage people to test and go for screening, and so that actually people can detect whether they have cancer or not, and ways in which we can actually prevent cancer from coming into our bodies, and also ways of treatment that are safe for anyone who falls sick. And of course, during this time, we want to welcome one and only Emily Mukomunene, who is a health rights advocate, author, and educator, to tell us all this and to demystify some of the things we have heard about cancer and what we can do to keep ourselves safe, even as we think about this disease, which has become a monster in our society, not just here in the country, but beyond, and continued to end so many lives as we know them. Karibu sana, Emily, if you can hear me.
Yes, I get you quite clear, Martin. Yes, my name is Emily Mukomunene. I'm a health educator. I am an author. My passion is to teach people about disease control, and especially on cancer, which is, I say, even up to now, cancer is a national disaster because it has devastated many people's lives. So much as I talk about health education, my greatest interest is to be able to empower cancer patients and empower the public on how they can be able to prevent cancer, and also making them understand about what cancer is all about. How does cancer get into our body? That's the cancer formation. Yeah, that is my interest.
Yes, definitely. And as we talk about cancer, in a number of times, cancer has been classified as a as a health hazard, and of course associated with lifestyle. And when people think about lifestyle, nutrition really comes into place and what we put into our bodies. Now, there has been a lot that has been said by different health practitioners about what people need to eat to prevent cancers, and what people need to eat when they have cancer to make sure that they fight the particular growth of those particular cells. What is your take as a person who is on the ground and an educator in this particular field?
For sure, Martin, a lot of the diseases, lifestyle diseases that we experience in the society today or in the world, it is because of our eating habits, and also the culture that we've developed of the fast foods, the culture of maybe we don't, the way we preserve the foods, and even what we do with our bodies. So it's not just about even the food, because you can be eating the right foods, but you are not you are not carrying out any physical activities. We should understand first what happens in the body. How does cancer form in the body? We say cancer formation of the cancer cells that that are identified as cancer. They form when the body has a lot of dead cells within itself. That is, we damage the body cells either by the toxic foods or toxic habits that trigger the change or the death or the damage of normal cells. So when these normal cells are damaged and they remain within the body and the body does not flush them out, it is what now forms the cancer cells in the body, or they combine together and they form the cancer tumors that we use to identify whether one has cancer or what type of cancer it is, depending on where that tumor is found in the body. So most of the cancers are triggered by our lifestyles. And the lifestyle is not just about food. Lifestyle is how we eat, how we dress, uh, our social lives, what we drink, and even how we relate with the environment that we live in. Because what we inhale in, it can also be toxic in our bodies. But nutrition plays a very major role, because at the end of the day, we say a human being is what they take. As we understand, body cells are made from the food that we eat. The food that we take in determines whether we have healthy cells or unhealthy cells, whether the cells within our bodies that are damaged can be repaired. The food determines how well we generate healthy cells or new cells that are required for day-to-day activities or functioning of a human body. So when our bodies are not able to generate healthy cells or to replace the ones that have been damaged or repair them, then the body, our systems get into a crisis. And in that crisis and confusion, that is where we develop cancer and other lifestyle diseases. Food plays a very major role, both for cancer prevention and even for those who are cancer treatment. For cancer prevention we've talked about healthy cells. When we eat healthy foods, somebody may ask what are healthy foods? We say the natural foods, live foods for a live body. That is what we insist on. Live foods mean we should take less of the factory processed foods. We take the fruits and vegetables that are fresh from the market. Minimize also refrigeration of vegetables and fruits, because when you refrigerate them for a long time, or you refrigerate them, you deny them or you suppress the nutrients in the food. And when you remove like vegetables from the fridge, it means you have to give them time for them to thaw so that you can be able to cook them. And in the process, you find we damage the nutrition, or we reduce the nutrition value in those vegetables. At the same time, we are forced to overcook them. When you overcook your vegetables, you just fill in your tummy, but most of the nutrients that you require, the vitamins that are essential for sustaining a healthy human being, for giving you or preventing you from these diseases like cancer, they are not available. So you eat, you say, I've taken a balanced diet, my food had vegetables, I take vegetables every day, but what kind of vegetables are you putting in your body? Then when we talk about fruits, there's what we call seasonal fruits. I keep on insisting that people should go for seasonal fruits. Let's say, for example, like here in Kenya, right now we have a lot of mangoes, we have the passion fruits, and all that. What is it about the seasonal fruits? Remember, seasonal fruits are fruits that grow in a particular area at a particular time. Growing in a particular area like Kenya, the climate of our country affects our body. So our body needs a particular type of fruits at a particular time to help us fight disease or to build our immune system. So when you go out of your way to look for fruits that are not on season, like the last few months, oranges were out of season, but I feel I want to take an orange. The orange that we'll get from the market is either imported orange from another country. Remember, that one does not affect you because their climate is different where it has grown, or the ones which we are saying they are getting genetically modified or even produced with the chemicals which are harmful to the body, so that they can be able to meet your desire for that orange. And that is not the orange, that is not what your body needs at that time. When God created these fruits, especially fruits and all that, he did for each country according to the month and the season of what the people living in that particular country require. So if we can be able to concentrate on seasonal fruits, then we can be able to ward off or control the rise of lifestyle diseases such as cancer. Then the other thing, we have also not learned about the amount of fruits that we should eat at a time. We say, let's take one fruit at a time. Fruits are good because they have vitamins. But when you take so many fruits at a go, like a whole bowl of fruit salad with a lot of, let's say, pawpaw at the same time, watermelon, bananas and all that, you put a lot of sugars in the body at once. So we encourage people to take a fruit at a time. And if you must take that fruit salad, then take your fruits in small portions. That one will be able to help your body. For cancer patients, especially when we can be able to choose the foods that help us overcome the cancer. Remember, cancer patients, when on treatment, we experience a lot of side effects from the drugs. The body is already undergoing a condition. We already have the cancer cells or the tumors that have been removed from the body. Then when we go for radiation or chemotherapy, they also damage other cells in the body. That is why we have side effects such as diarrhea, vomiting, or even a loss of hair, or even a dry skin. It means particular cells are being damaged by the chemotherapy. So it is very important for cancer patients to understand what cells have been damaged. You can be able to understand, like if your blood is not clotting, then you should understand that the cells that control blood clot have been damaged. So what are you supposed to do in turn? You are supposed to look for foods that give you iron. And when you are getting the food that give you iron, and iron or the platelets that help in the blood clot. Remember, for iron to be absorbed in the body, you need vitamin C. So you cannot go on your way and take a lot of the foods that give you iron, liver, eggs, and all that without taking the foods that give you vitamin C. So for iron to be absorbed in the body, you need vitamin C. You also need vitamin D. That's why we talk about balanced diet. And a balanced diet means food that is well balanced, vegetables not overcooked, foods that complement the absorption of the necessary minerals from each said group or each food group.
Definitely. Now, before
Yes.
before we there are a few questions I really wanted to combine, but I think I'm glad you have answered when it comes to some of the treatment methods when it comes to cancer. But just taking you back from what we have been talking about with this particular fruits that we call oranges, and sometimes we have found ourselves in tricky situations where there are exposes here and there of some of these vegetables that have been grown in questionable conditions in terms of the chemicals used, specifically when it comes to vegetables like onions and tomatoes. Um, how bad is this situation, and how much of harmful content might we be eating right now, maybe as Kenyans?
Uh, Actually, that's why we need what we are calling health education, Martin, because you find even the farmers who are growing this food, they are not able to understand why we have instructions on the pesticides or the chemicals that are sprayed on these foods to prevent either insects, invasion of insects, or other harmful or animals that can be able to damage the crop. But every chemical that is sold, it has instructions of from the time you spray up to the time of harvest to the time of consumption, how many days, what is the time duration. We really need the Ministry of Agriculture and Ministry of Health to put their feet down and sensitize the public, the farmers, on how the importance of obeying the instructions given on food production. We are taking a lot of chemicals, and even we say foods grown in a questionable environment. But the foods that are grown, like let's say in the seaways and all that, they are not as harmful as foods that are grown with the chemicals and we take them in the salads and all that. Remember, when you plant, let's say for spinach or even the hoho, even on the sewer line, by the time that crop is ready for consumption, that food will not have any of the dirt that is, it has been grown in. What makes this food toxic or dangerous is between the harvest and cleaning for one to use. How that food, how it is handled and cleaned is now what becomes bad for your body. That is why you find you will take something and you'll have develop stomach problems because the handling from harvest to preparation has not been done properly. So what we should keep watch on is sensitizing the farmers and even the public. Don't rush for anything that you see in the market first without understanding or knowing whether this food has been sprayed with chemicals. Like for example, things like tomatoes, you can see the whitish stuff on them, even skumawiki, and you can know this one has not passed the time that is recommended for it to be brought in the market for our consumption.
And the big question becomes now, what can we do collectively? Because this is a problem that has been there and continues to be there. People are feeding on stuff they do not know. And of course, when we look at international bodies like, UICC, that are actually in the forefront in fighting this particular cancer. And a time came and we experienced a bigger thing. When people are crying about cancer and we found ourselves in the midst of a pandemic, how has the COVID-19 pandemic situation affected cancer patients and cancer as a disease, and how it has affected people? Where are these people going to now that they are not frequenting the treatment centers? And as you answer that, for the sake of time, as we wind up, um, um, you know, answer this question as we end our conversation. Is cancer natural or man-made? Over to you.
Yes. Cancer patients have been highly affected, especially at this time of COVID-19. Remember, when you are a patient, you are vulnerable to disease. When we experienced the COVID-19 in our country, there were restrictions that were put in place. And there was a lot of fear of getting infected with COVID-19, especially for those people who have other conditions like cancer. So you find, like, if somebody was even going to the office, or even they had to close the business because there was a lockdown and people were told stay at home or work from home. As we know, majority of Kenyans are self-employed. And now you can imagine a situation of a cancer patient who has to remain in the house. They need medicine. Sometimes they have to go to the hospital, and the cost of transportation became very high. The hospitals were restricting even people who are going there. Those cancer patients were affected. Most of them could not even hardly afford food, leave alone the medicine itself. And up to now, even when the restrictions have gone, as we know, our economic status is still very low. So cancer patients are affected. Even before we experienced COVID-19, we were already lobbying with the government. We had petitioned the government to declare cancer a national disaster, because cancer is a national disaster. Even between now, from March up to now, if we do a tally of how many people have been affected by cancer, there are much, much more than the people who have been affected by COVID-19 or even these other diseases. So cancer is actually a national disaster. And I know whether I cannot for sure say whether it is man-made or a natural pandemic disaster.
All right.
Because both the nature and human have played major role in triggering the upsurge of cancer diseases.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us tonight for this particular conversation. I think next time we begin on that particular point where we look at the situation and the statistics of cancer patients. Thank you so much, Emily, for joining us tonight.
You are most welcome. It was a pleasure interacting with you.
Thank you.
And yes. And I've written several books on cancer prevention.
Yes.
100 tips on cancer. My latest book is on COVID-19, TB, and HIV and AIDS. Definitely. I've been the first Kenyan woman now to write on COVID-19. So feel free to interact and ask questions. I also carry health education throughout and do a lot of cancer support for patients and their families.
All right.
Thank you, Martin.
Thank you so much, Emily. This particular conversation continues, but now we take a short break. We'll be coming back with what's happening in the world of sports. Don't go anywhere.